What if your relaxing getaway turned into a night of terror? Join us as we uncover the chilling secrets of Room 13. They checked in for a peaceful night's sleep. They almost checked out, permanently. This is the haunting tale of Room 13. Ever wonder why some hotels skip the 13th floor? After hearing this story, you'll understand why. Welcome to the mystery of Room 13. It was a dark October day as we pulled into the parking lot of the Grand Oaks Hotel. The building stood before us, its old Victorian architecture a stark contrast against the darkening sky. My wife Sarah squeezed my hand as we stepped out of the car. "Are you sure about this place, Mike?" she whispered. I nodded, trying to appear more confident than I felt. "It's just for one night, honey. We'll be on our way in the morning." As we approached the entrance, a chill ran down my spine. The wind picked up, rustling the leaves of the ancient oak trees that surrounded the property. I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. The lobby was dimly lit, with flickering chandeliers casting eerie shadows on the faded wallpaper. An elderly man stood behind the reception desk, his wrinkled face illuminated by a single desk lamp. "Welcome to the Grand Oaks," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Do you have a reservation?" I cleared my throat. "Yes, under the name Thompson, just for tonight." The old man's eyes narrowed as he flipped through a dusty ledger. "Oh yes, Mr. and Mrs. Thompson. You'll be in room 13. Sarah's grip on my arm tightened. 13? Isn't that unlucky? The receptionist's lips curled into what might have been a smile. "Oh, we don't believe in such superstitions here. Room 13 is one of our finest." As he handed us an old brass key, his cold fingers brushed against mine, sending a shiver through my body. "Enjoy your stay," he muttered, his gaze lingering on us a moment too long. We made our way up the old staircase, our footsteps echoing in the empty corridor. The wallpaper was peeling in places, revealing patches of damp plaster underneath. Old portraits lined the walls, their eyes seeming to follow us as we passed. "Mike, I don't like this," Sarah whispered. "Something feels off." I put my arm around her, trying to ignore the growing unease in my own stomach. "It's just an old building, sweetie. Nothing to worry about." As we reached the second floor, a cold draft swept past us, causing the lights to flicker. For a moment, I thought I saw a shadow move at the end of the hallway, but when I blinked, it was gone. The door to room 13 stood at the end of the corridor, its paint chipped and faded. The brass number hung crookedly, swinging slightly in a breeze I couldn't feel. With a deep breath, I inserted the key and turned it. The lock clicked open with a creaking sound. We stepped inside, and I fumbled for the light switch. The room was barely finished, with a large four-poster bed dominating the space. A musty smell hung in the air, mixed with something I couldn't quite place. Sarah walked to the window, pulling back the heavy curtains. "The view's not bad," she said, forcing a smile. "We can see the whole town from here." I joined her, wrapping my arms around her waist. As I gazed out at the twinkling lights of the town below, someone moving in the reflection caught my eye. I spun around, but the room was empty. "Did you see that?" I asked, my heart racing. Sarah shook her head, her face pale. "See what?" "Nothing," I muttered. "Must have been my imagination." We tried to settle in for the night, unpacking our overnight bags and getting ready for bed. As Sarah was in the bathroom, I heard a faint scratching sound coming from the closet. Cautiously, I approached it, my hand trembling as I reached for the handle. Just as my fingers touched the cool metal, Sarah emerged from the bathroom. "What are you doing?" she asked. I jumped, quickly pulling my hand away. "I thought I heard something. It's probably just an old building settling." We climbed into bed, the springs creaking under our weight. As we lay there in the darkness, the noises seemed to grow louder. Scratching, tapping, and what sounded like whispers filled the room. "Mike?" Sarah whispered, her voice trembling. "I'm scared." I pulled her close, trying to calm my own racing heart. "It's okay. We're safe. Try to get some sleep." In the middle of the night, I woke up with a start. The room was pitch black, but I had the unsettling feeling that someone was watching us. As my eyes adjusted to the darkness, I noticed a faint glow coming from the old mirror on the wall. Slowly I got out of bed, careful not to wake Sarah. As I approached the mirror, my reflection seemed to ripple, like water disturbed by a stone. I leaned in closer, my breath fogging the glass. Suddenly a face that wasn't mine stared back at me. It was the face of a young woman, her eyes wide with terror, her mouth open in a silent scream. I stumbled backward, knocking over a lamp. The crash woke Sarah, who sat up with a gasp. "What's happening?" she cried. I couldn't find the words to explain what I'd seen. When I looked back at the mirror, it showed only our normal reflections, but the feeling of dread remained. Unable to sleep, we decided to turn on the lights and investigate the room. As Sarah was checking under the bed, I noticed a small book tucked away in the nightstand drawer. "Look at this," I said, carefully opening the fragile pages. "It's a diary." The entries dated back to the 1920s, written in faded ink. As we read through them, a chilling story unfolded. The diary belonged to a young woman named Emily, who'd been a guest at the hotel decades ago. Emily wrote about strange occurrences in room 13. Whispers in the night, objects moving on their own, and a growing sense of dread. The final entry sent shivers down our spines. "I can't stay here any longer. Something evil lives in this room. If you're reading this, get out while you still can. Don't let them trap you like they trapped me." As we sat there trying to process what we had read, the temperature in the room suddenly dropped. Our breath came out in visible puffs, and the lights began to flicker. "Mike," Sarah whimpered, pointing to the corner of the room. Hovering a few feet off the ground, there was this translucent figure of a young woman. Her long hair floated around her as if she were underwater, and her eyes were fixed on us with a look of desperation. I recognized her immediately as the face I'd seen in the mirror. Emily. She raised a hand, pointing urgently at the door. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. Yet somehow, I could hear her voice in my mind. "Run before it's too late." We didn't need to be told twice. Grabbing our bags, we bolted for the door. But as I turned the handle, it wouldn't move. The lock had somehow engaged itself. "The window," Sarah cried, already pulling back the curtains. As we struggled to open the old, paint-sealed window, the room around us began to change. The wallpaper peeled away in strips, revealing pulsing, organic matter underneath. The floor seemed to ripple and shift, and a deep, inhuman growl filled the air. With a final push, the window flew open. We didn't hesitate. Sarah climbed out first, and I followed close behind. As I glanced back into the room, I saw it transforming into something nightmarish. A gaping maw of darkness threatening to swallow everything. We ran down the fire escape and didn't stop until we reached our car. As we sped away from the Grand Oaks Hotel, our hearts pounding, we tried to make sense of what had happened. The next day, after a sleepless night at the roadside motel, we decided to do some research. What we discovered chilled us to the bone. The Grand Oaks Hotel had a dark history. Over the years, numerous guests had disappeared without a trace, many of them last seen entering room 13. Local legends spoke of a malevolent entity that fed on fear and trapped souls within the hotel's walls. Emily had been one of the first victims. Her body was never found, but her spirit remained, trying to warn others of the danger that lurked within room 13. It's been weeks since our night at the Grand Oaks, but the memories still haunt us. We've tried to warn others to have the hotel investigated, but our story is met with skepticism and disbelief. Sometimes late at night, I still hear Emily's whispered warning. "Run before it's too late." And I wonder about the other souls trapped within those walls, and if anyone will ever believe the truth about room 13. As for Sarah and me, we've sworn off old hotels for good. Some mysteries we've learned are better left unsolved, but we'll never forget our brush with the supernatural and the terrifying secret hidden within the Grand Oaks Hotel.